Shalom, 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 everyone. Welcome to yet another segment from Na'Shay Chayil, Simchah, the joy of learning. Right now, I want to thank you all for joining us, those that may be joining us, those that are new. We say welcome. For those that are returning, glad that you're back. I hope you will enjoy tonight. I think it'll be interesting. So tonight's topic from us will be my body, my temple. So keep that in mind as I get ready but right before I get ready to welcome my sisters in. But for those who are new to Na'Shay Chayil, I would like to I always start off with who we are and what we're about with our motto and our vision. So here it goes. Na'Shay Chayil, our motto, I value my sister because she is valued by the Most High. Our vision, we have committed ourselves to service to our Elohim, service to our communities, and service to our families and each other. We welcome sisters to join us on our rediscovery of sisterhood. We discuss topics of interest that aid in our spiritual growth. Torah is our fence. We aim to learn and impart Torah into our lives so we can truly live up to the name Na'Shay Chayil. And as always, as sisters, we will always come with the hospitality of Abraham, as well as our mother Sarah. We will be honest with one another. We will speak wisdom and encouragement to one another. We will value, honor, and respect one another. We will create a safe environment for one another. We will be our sister's keeper. We will maintain spiritual growth with Torah as our fence. And so as I say all of that, let me welcome in my other sisters that are there in the background to say shalom. Our sister, Coach
Shalom.
We have a Coach Chantel.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom, ladies. I have to get like my groove back. You know, it's always a minute. You gotta kind of navigate yourself back.
Right.
But so tonight, ladies, we got a good one. I feel we always have good ones, but tonight we're discussing my body, my temple. And I kind of just want to jump into it, so to speak, but I want to give a little background, right? Because sometimes I know people kind of wonder, well, where do you get these topics from?
Right.
A lot of times, it's conversations that we'll have in our meetings. It's conversations in which we'll have with each other. Or in this case, we have had a lot of talk as far as our current events and what's going on in the world. And in particular, a Coach Chantel actually, it stirred up something in her to want to, really start to address things that's currently going on in the world. And I thought it was a good idea. And as always, we can bring what's current and then still find ways to bring in the word of the Most High God, to even make it more well-rounded, right? To find ways to apply it into our lives or how it may lead us even into the word of God. So Chantel, I would like you, if you could, just kind of like, you came up with the idea. So just out of curiosity, for those that may not know, like what brought you to this thought of my body, my temple for us to do this?
Okay, so recent and current events, what has been going on in the world? And as it pertains to women, which is the whole turning over or reversing Roe versus Wade. And so it really made me think about like my own history, also my upbringing, and what could we do now moving forward in teaching our daughters how to not put themselves in that position of having to make that choice, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I said, well, I think we should address that in a way. How does it relate to our bodies? How is our body seen? I wish that women would have told me some things. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I kind of wanted to talk about that, kind of bring that whole to me.
Well, when we tend to bring up some of these topics a lot of times, so that even those that might be new, or for people in general to get an understanding of us, right? We can bring up a topic and we will take so many different viewpoints from that topic, right? It'll lead us in various directions. And a lot of times I connect that to spirit, right? Who we are, what we may be going through, what we've gone through, what we're seeing, what we're being privy in our everyday lives, affects how we sometimes approach a topic or even the word in general. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to even the Most High's word, sometimes we'll get something out of it that we never thought about before. Right. So with that, I always start out with having to ask the question, my body, my temple. Now, when we said this out of curiosity to start moving in that direction, where were you guys? Like what besides, because I was a little woof.
I wrote out all my notes. So I don't know how you want me to do this. So it's like, I don't know.
We here.
I mean, you know me, I gotta write everything down.
Right.
In order for me to stay within topic before I can start going crazy with my thoughts, right? So if y'all want me to go,
I mean, you can
share my notes if y'all don't mind.
No.
Okay. Or are we having like a discussion? I know we're having a discussion, but when I have thoughts,
yeah,
I have to kind of read my thoughts on as it's written.
Well, then let's go. Read them.
All right. So considering all praises, first of all, to the Most High that allows us to be here. So one of the things I really do enjoy about this group is that when we talk about different topics, we all come with a different perspective. And those different perspectives brings, kind of life to, what we are trying to convey to the people, right? So in considering these recent events with the Supreme Court decision to reverse Roe versus Wade, discussing our bodies as temples to be used by the Most High in the most honorable way possible is what I felt like we should do, right? So, and tonight, everyone who's listening is going to hear the different aspects, different ways we bring that about, right? My way is I'm coming with choices, right? The choices we make. So the question Roe versus Wade debate posed is who has the right to choose what is best for women in their bodies. So just a little insight into Roe versus Wade. It was about protecting the rights of women who sought abortions without criminal action. Prior to 1973, it was illegal to have an abortion in Texas, where the case originated from. The initial ruling of the court at that time was based on two important factors: the right to privacy, that's Roe, and if the fetus was considered a person, that was Texas. The Supreme Court's final decision included the right to privacy, but it did not guarantee the absolute right to an abortion, and it did not restrict the states from putting restrictions on abortion. It protected the liberty to choose to have an abortion, but only in certain times. The decision was divided into 3 12-week trimesters. During a pregnant person's first trimester, the court held a state cannot regulate abortion beyond requiring that the procedure be performed by a licensed doctor in medically safe conditions. During the second trimester, the court held that a state may regulate abortion if the regulations are reasonably related to the health of the pregnant person. During the third trimester of pregnancy, the state's interest in protecting a potential human life outweighs the right to privacy. As a result, the state may prohibit abortions unless an abortion is necessary to save the life or health of the pregnant person. I'm going to say pregnant women because that's where I know we all at, right?
Right.
So as we know, in June, the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortion, leaving it to the states to impose laws regarding abortion. According to Justice Samuel Alito, who this firestorm started with, right? He wrote, in quotes, "The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision, including the one on which the defenders of Roe and also Casey, that's another case, now held to guarantee some rights that are not mentioned in the Constitution. But any such right must be deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition, and implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives," end quote. When God created man, he breathed into his nostrils and he became a living soul. You know, I love the breath of God. He created man from the dust. He created man from the dust of the earth in his image. Male and female, he created them. When Yah created male and female, he gave them a command: be fruitful and multiply. He gave them a command to fill the earth with people, with family and community. Our bodies were created in his image, housed his breath to bring forth life. When he chose Israel as his people, he wanted us to be special and set apart from the other nations. He called us his special treasure. I'm Segula. Is that right? I'm Segula. I remember that from Moray Baruch's lesson. Okay. I miss his lesson. His command for Israel was to be holy, for he is holy. We understand holiness, holy, to mean set apart. Leviticus 19:2, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel. Say unto them, ye should be holy, for I, Yah, your Elohim, am holy. He also commands in Leviticus 20:26, he says, and ye should be holy unto me, for I, Yah, am holy, and have severed you from other people that ye should be mine. If we proclaim to be the nation of Israel and call on his awesome name, our thoughts, our actions, and our words should be holy before the Creator every day. As children of Israel, what does the Most High say about our right to choose? Does he give us the right to choose what is best for our bodies? Part of me says yes, and part of me says no. But, I brought up some examples of how we had choices and the choices that we did make. We had the choice when he told, Imana Ami.
Shalom.
Ima.
I missed that. I didn't see the J, and I missed it. And I said, why is this thing giving me a 404 error? I was about to throw the phone all across the room.
Don't throw the phone.
Please don't throw the phone.
I said to myself, this is it. My shalom can.
Okay, man.
Hey, Tova.
Rukia.
Shalom ka.
Okay. Ani Magisha Tova. Well, Tova. Okay.
We're just starting. Chantel's in the middle of her synopsis.
Okay.
So to continue, so we had the choice when he told Moshe, to tell the people to put the blood of the lamb on the doorposts of our home, so we would be protected from the angel of death. We made a choice for our lives. We had the choice when we chose him as our Elohim and decided we would be his people on Mount Horeb. We made a choice for our souls. We were given a choice to obey his commands. In the book of Deuteronomy, Moses explained that we have a choice, one that leads to blessings and another that leads to curses. Every day, the decision we ought to make is to be holy in every way, again, every thought, action, and word, so that we will receive blessing upon blessing. He gave us, every man, woman, and child, the right to choose holiness. So we made a choice for our way of life. Our right of choice must reflect who we worship and who we belong to. We are people of the Most High Elohim, and he has called us to be separated from other nations. So how can we do that in light of the Supreme Court decision? We know that the abortion rights was fought for white women who were dying at alarming rates since the late 1800s, because unless it was for life-threatening reason, rape or incest, it was criminalized. Now abortions are at a high rate amongst our women, our Black women.
And the rate of dying too.
Right, Ima. Young and old. According to the Texas Tribune, dated June 30th, 2022, it states 40% of Black women are receiving abortions in the U.S. 40%. How can we lower these numbers in our communities? It starts at home. And as I said, I wish things would have started at home early for me, so I would have made wiser choices for my body, right? So one of the things I thought about was, how can we teach our daughters today the value of their womb in all its related parts? When I was younger, surrounded by women, I was not taught how precious my womb was, nor the importance of placing high value on it. I would have made much better choices for my body. And as I was preparing my notes, I was thinking about the title, My Body, My Temple. My body, my temple. And I know some of us who have came out of church was reminded of a scripture in the New Testament that says, do you not know your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. While this scripture comes from the part of the book we no longer follow, there is some truth we can pull from this verse. First, our bodies are temples. Second, it is a place for the Holy Spirit to dwell. According to the prophecies found in the prophets, Yah will fill us with his spirit. We are not our own. We belong to Yah. Deuteronomy 14:2 says, for you are a holy people to Yah, our Elohim, and Yah has chosen us to be a special treasure above all peoples who are on the face of the earth. For we were bought at a price. Yes, we were. We were redeemed from Egypt, which we read about in Exodus, and which Yah reminds us at every turn in every book of the Tanach. Honor Yah with our bodies. The commandments teaches us how to do that in many, many ways. So why do I bring this up? Because I want to share a few things I taught my eldest daughter from my previous marriage when she was a young teen, and how we can think of our bodies as temples, a place where God is honored. 1, name. The Most High's name is very important to him. His name is a part of our DNA. So it should be important to us. When my daughter was young, I told her about the importance of naming her female genitalia. I told her the name she chooses should hold value to her. I told her that she needs to see her female genitalia as her best friend. By giving it a name, she is connecting. You're connecting with the area, giving it importance, and it is a very important part of who we are as women. Solomon blesses Yah and reminds the people of what Yah spoke to his father David in 2 Chronicles 6, verses 5-6. He says, Yah says, since the day that I brought my people out of the land of Egypt, I have chosen no city from any tribe of Israel in which to build a house, that my name may be there. Nor did I choose any man to be a ruler over my people Israel. Yet I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name may be there. And I have chosen David to be over my people Israel. Just as God chose his name to be in Israel and knew that that was an important place, in the same way we should name our female parts. 2, everyone is not allowed. On the Day of Atonement, no one but the high priest can enter into the most holy place. Leviticus 16:17 says there should be no man in the tabernacle of meeting when the high priest goes in to make atonement in the holy place until he comes out. We should consider our womb as a holy place, a set apart place in which only one man can enter, our husband. Not just anyone should be allowed in. So along with teaching my daughter to name her female genitalia, I told her that she must be careful who she allows near it. Everyone doesn't belong there. I love Akot Zaria's teaching of our spiritual connection with our mates in our last segment. What does it mean to be a woman? Her teaching made so much sense and brought to light a lot of information I didn't even know. 3, filth is not allowed. Another lesson I taught her was she had to be careful with her best friend. If she mistreats her, her best friend will cause problems for her. She will become sick or diseased, which will not be pleasant. Deuteronomy 23, 9-14, Israel received instructions on how to care for their campsite. Why? In verse 14, it says, Yah walks in the midst of your camp.
Mm-hmm.
He walked in the midst of our camp because the tabernacle was placed right in the middle of the tribes.
Okay.
Our bodily excrement was not allowed in the area. We read in Leviticus 15:18, when a woman lies with a man and there is an emission of semen, they should bathe in water and be unclean until evening. If we say our bodies are temples to honor the Most High with, then cleanliness must be maintained.
Amen.
Now, these next two, I did not share with her at this time, but I thought it was important to add. Commitment, number 4. Commitment is an absolute necessity in our relationship with the Most High. 1 Kings 8:6-1. Let your heart therefore be wholly devoted to Yah our Elohim, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandment as is this day. We have to be committed to the Creator. We have to commit our bodies to the Creator. We have to commit everything in our lives to the Creator. Right? What's that scripture? Commit your ways to the Most High. Ima, can you finish that for me?
No.
Maybe
I know the story, but I'm not a chapter verse person.
Zaria has it.
I can find it for you, though. I can Google it. No, in fact, I can.
Azaria. No, Ima, go ahead, Azaria. You don't have to.
Is it so that your plans will be established?
Yes, right. Mm-hmm. So, which we got a lot of plans, right? Even plans for who goes down in there, right? So, anyway, sidebar. See, going off script right here, right? Okay. So, 5, love.
Oh yeah.
Nothing can be done without love. If we do not love Elohim, we cannot truly love ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The Shema is a reminder. Hear, O Israel, Yah our Elohim, Yah is one. You should love Yah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. In Jeremiah, we know that his love shows us how he has plans for us to prosper us and not to harm us. Plans to give us hope in the future. If we love Elohim, we are allowing ourselves to know and feel love at its purest forms. And we cannot follow Torah without love for God. Elohim.
Amen.
I believe by teaching her the 3 things that I taught her, and plus adding this, teaching my daughter the 3 things, that she will value her female parts and make wiser choices that will be best for her. For our daughters who are in the knowledge of their true selves, I pray that they will see their bodies as representation of the holy temple. The design of the temple was of a glorious and magnificent design. Okay. This is how we should view our female genitalia and place a high value on what God has created to be used for, and to seek his wisdom as to who would be allowed to enter in. If we begin there, I believe our daughters, as they understand the importance of their female genitalia, and they placed a high value on it, that they will prayerfully decrease the number of unwanted pregnancies and abortions.
Right.
So, Toda Yah, allowing me to share.
Sorry. That's Psalm 37.
Psalm 37.
Psalm 37, where it says, let me see, hold on. 37, and it's 4. So shalt thou delight thyself in Yah, and he shall give thee 5. Commit thy way unto Yah, trust also in him, and he will bring it to pass. Sorry. What is this? My tongue is getting tired and everything.
It's fine.
This is one of those days for me, I'm like.
So, you know me, let's stir pots.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's where your mind kind of
Right.
go to and went when we actually said, okay, topic wise, my body, my temple. So
Mhm.
challenge question would be, what do you feel, anybody can jump in and answer this question, what keeps us from viewing ourselves as being holy?
Say it again. What's the question again?
What keeps us from viewing ourselves as being holy?
I would think any sin that we commit, any infraction of the law that we commit, I would think that would keep us from viewing ourselves as such.
I think also it's upbringing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So, like I said, I was surrounded by a lot of women that, I didn't really see that,
Mm-hmm.
the love for what they represented, who they were, and, how they viewed their bodies. So I wasn't really taught that,
Yeah, and
Um,
I can tell you from the OG days, there's some things that they really left out. I remember, and I'm just going to try to make this brief. I remember that my great aunt and them, they used to sit around because they used to sit in almost like sewing circles, and they would use that as a means to discuss, what goes on between men and women, or how women should behave and whatnot. And that's basically where I got it, because my mother was a working mother, and my maternal grandmother, died when I was very, very young. So we don't do that anymore. I noticed that it's sort of like a situation where we try to let our daughters find out for themselves, and that is not the way to learn. They should be hearing from the elders and should be hearing from women who are experienced and whatnot, so that they can learn how you carry yourself. I remember one of the things I remember my mother saying: keep your skirt down and your legs closed. You know what I mean? That was. So that's what I'm saying. But women used to discuss this among themselves, and women don't seem to be doing that anymore.
Right. So that's one of the, because of how I felt growing up, I always made it a point to speak to my daughters. And I have 3, one from my previous marriage and 2 from my current marriage. And these are their daughters, my husband's daughters, because, he'll bless me with some granddaughters. so I always felt like it was my job to teach them based off of whatever situation that they were going through, that if I had something to share with them that was relative to it, then I would share it. I didn't want them to be blindsided. And so I recall that even from my current marriage, one of the daughters really felt like my approach to them was like I didn't understand. And, it was, I guess also approaches is necessary, because for some people may not receive. And I'm pretty like, look, I don't want to do that because this is going to happen, right? And some people are not going to receive that, right? But it was really me just trying to like save them from themselves and from any, unnecessary emotional setbacks, right? So I think it's important, still, no matter what, to at least relay the information anyway, so that they can have something to think about. And I remember I used to say, my mom used to mention things to me, and I'm like, I don't need that right now. I'm gonna need that later, though. I'm gonna file it away. But it's important to talk to our daughters, our nieces, our little granddaughters, our cousins, whoever is around who's speaking some things that you can like, hold up, it's just a girl. Let me talk to you. Not a girl. Let me talk to you. And just really just trying to get them to, honor themselves, even if they are not in this way, because I'm the only one in this way of life in my whole family. So even if they're not in this way, we still have a right to talk to our children, our girls, even our sons. And trust me, I've been talking to my sons about these girls out here, but they don't listen. But, so yeah.
Zaria, how do you, like, in your opinion, what keeps us, you think, from basically viewing ourselves holy? What do you think keeps us from that?
As you guys are talking, I'm thinking about what everything that's being said. And one of the things that I thought about when it comes to remembering was the scripture in reference to remembering the law or remembering the words of Elohim and binding it to you yourself and to your forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, we're so, as a nation of people, just as people in general, we forget so easily who we are. I mean, you could see it over time in history where the Most High will bring us out of a situation and we'll forget about it and it just happened. And then we'll go right back to not trusting in the Most High or in the Creator to deliver us from another challenge that we may face or another obstacle that we may face. So I think that what keeps us from remembering basically who we are, right? That's what you want to know, who we are in the Most High, is that we lose trust. I think fear is an aspect of it. I think that having a spirit of lack puts us in a position where we forget who we are. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, my mind went to a totally different space when you were talking about your body, your temple. But I know that what prompted the thought was the Roe versus Wade decision. And I said to myself, just briefly while you were talking, Chantel, I said, well, what puts a woman in the state of mind where she feels like she needs to get rid of or to eliminate a pregnancy, right? And I really try not to come from a judgmental space from my own personal history, as well as, you know, just looking out into the world and interacting with sisters that have made that decision. And what I come up with the most is that fear, number one, fear, and you automatically go to a place of lack. So if I have this child, I might not be able to provide for this child or the father or whatever, or considering the circumstance, depending upon what the circumstance is, you can go to fear. And I think those are the major things that cause us to forget. I really do, because we go into a panic. Anytime you go into you disconnect from the Creator, because now you're in an insane thought process or insane mind.
Might I just say that this decision, I think, was prompted by the fact that the demographics are overtaking what was the dominant society, and therefore that's what their fear is. However, what I'm saying is that I hear this scream about pro-life. They're worried about the abstract of the unborn, but those who are already born, they don't seem to have a care for. We have children who are hungry. We have children who are homeless. We have children who don't have clothing. We have children who don't get adequate health care. We got children who are miseducated. Those should be the concerns. Those children are here. You don't have to imagine them coming here. They're here. Yet and still, we still have these, in the richest, so-called richest country in the world, you still have pockets of poverty. You still have families living on the streets that are homeless. You understand what I'm saying? And meanwhile, we are sending these billions of dollars to other places, which, I mean, I'm not complaining about the fact that these places may need them, but I've always been taught that charity begins at home and then spreads abroad. That's the thing that concerns me, and I get real upset when I hear these people talk about they're pro-life. I said, well, what about the lives that are already here, you know?
That is so interesting you brought that up, because I was talking to my dad about this, and he said the same thing, basically. You talk about your pro-life, and you're worrying about the unborn child, but when they come, are you taking care of the baby and the woman? Are you providing all these necessary things that they need? You're more concerned about this. Your picket, right, but are you gonna help me? You gonna help me when I have to carry? No, you don't care after that.
After her 6-week checkup, you want her to go right back to work. Then you don't provide proper child care. You don't provide those support services that would keep her well at home.
Let me remind everybody too. First and foremost, these laws are not written with us in mind.
You know that.
The struggles in which we connect to those laws constitutionally has no thought of us whatsoever. And as much as we want to input ourselves, which is a God-given, a natural reaction to do, right? Because we do live here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a natural thing for us to want to insert that. But the problem is, one, we don't demand, the way we demand things is not how the system is built for us to demand it, if that makes sense. So it's almost like chess. It's a game. You have to know the moves in order to move forward.
Come on.
To be able to progress and to be able to knock the other man off the board. Right? It takes strategy. But also you have to there's a willingness to have to do certain things in order for you to be able to progress. One of the things that we have to start looking at is fully understanding where unity lies. And so when we have topics like this that comes up, one of the things in reading a lot of the bills that are being passed right now or attempting to be passed is the underlying conversation.
Yes.
So the big conversation and big bowl will be like pro-life, pro-choice, type thing, right? But the underlines in there are understanding women's reproductive rights. And once you begin to start making decisions based off of, for whatever their original plan is, the underlying messages ultimately affect every woman across the board.
Exactly.
They're starting to make certain decisions. They're not thinking of situations. They are not thinking of medical conditions.
Exactly.
They are not even in wanting for there to be an understanding of the body and it being taught a certain way. You're now opening the door to be able to dictate how that's going to happen. So getting back on, go ahead.
I read something. See, like I said, when we were talking about it, I went into a totally different place. But
about to go there though.
I know, and it's okay. But I read something. And even in my own personal experience, when it comes to a woman's right to choose, generally it's circumstantial, right? Generally, we can justify that choice based on circumstances.
Right.
And over the years, as I've experienced life, I go in and out of the justification for that type of procedure to be done. And the reason why is because, but something struck me while we're talking, really, really like hard. It was a little girl, she was about 10 years old.
Yes.
And there was an OBGYN. Did y'all hear about that story?
Yes. She had to go to another state. Yeah.
Yeah, the OBGYN was testifying that she had performed an abortion on this young lady. And, from what I understand, the little girl was raped. Okay.
Yes.
And so as a mother, right? And then as a woman, you consider that and you're like, well, she was 10 years old and she got raped. You know what I'm saying? Who would want her to carry that child? You know what I'm saying? Who would want her to go through that trauma? And that is one of those situations, one of those circumstances that is kind of like, wow, that seems justifiable, right?
Yeah.
And so I started putting myself in the mind of the nature of and I can give example after example. I know if you're pregnant and you seem to be having a baby that may have some type of mental illness or something like that, or some type of disease, they give you the choice to terminate your pregnancy if you find out early enough.
Yeah.
And so I just started thinking about all these circumstances where that's presented as a justifiable option. If the mother is going to lose her life, you know, and there's so many things that go along with it, and that's why I said fear is a big factor. And then you also have that idea of lack, where will I be able to even provide for this child or take care of this child, or do I have the sufficient support? But I said to myself, I said, well, wow, when I consider it, are these the things that they present to you to justify the option to choose? Or is it a situation where, like, the nature of a woman is that we are the earth, right? And so when we become impregnated, it's like seed being planted in us. And well, it is seed.
It is.
Right.
The nature of the earth is that sometimes you can plant your seed, but you can plant your seed in the ground that's not good. And sometimes the earth can reject the seed that's being planted.
Absolutely.
And so as I'm considering that, you know, I'm not an advocate for or against, and I'm not here to judge if it's worthy or not. Right. But when I consider the nature of a woman and us being like the earth, I know that everybody has a strong opinion. I've heard people say you got blood on your hands, and it's like, whoa, that's pretty intense. And you got sisters out here just using abortion as a form of birth control.
Right.
And you just have all these situations where it's like, wow, that's pretty messed up that they did that. But us having the nature of the earth, sometimes seed can be rejected by the earth, and you can plant a seed and it not grow. So the question would be, is that the choice of the creator to decide for you, or can you make that choice to say, well, they planted that seed and I don't want to nurture that seed. I don't want to help that seed grow. You know, is that an option that a woman has? That's just a thought process. And
which is a strong thought process, because it's an unfortunate situation as a whole, right? So in the bigger scheme of things, in a perfect world, right? Torah filled, everybody on one accord, everybody, the alignment is right, the creator's working, everybody is in favor of the creator and all these types of things. Although we know that these things happened, nothing new under the sun. To include even the topic in which we're talking about, it's nothing new under the sun. It just didn't have the same procedures attached to it. You understand what I'm saying? However, if there was levels of protection, if there was levels of justice within the earth, right? Then when we talk about these topics, wouldn't be so much of a fight to be able to have the internal conflict, because I'm like you, I'm not for, I'm not against. There are things that you can think to justify, you know what I'm saying? And there are other things that, you know, you're like, well, I don't know. And then you want to go to it this way, but it's an internal conflict, because ultimately it all boils down to justice. So if a young girl is raped in a city or in a country and she screams, you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's levels of justice that can be served. But we're living in the 21st century with all the technology in the world, and rapists still get less time than if you was carrying weed in 1992.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So the Most High considers rape, or looks at a subject of like rape, compares it to murder.
Right.
Why? Therefore, the justice is not there. Therefore, there's levels where people are trying to find ways to gain levels of justice, right? That might conflict with a natural process.
Right.
So in us going to that and segueing kind of into that, we're talking about the temple, right? We're talking about our bodies and how we can relate to it. You know, Azaria, when this topic came across, and although we understand somewhat of the context in which Chantel did a very great job in,
She did. You did.
Oh, Tora.
in expounding where she was in that, as well as the scripture verses. Awesome. For you, when we're talking about our body, our temple, because I'm like you, I took it to a literal sense.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, I took it to the Mishkan in particular.
Right.
But I've been on my seat. I've been kind of curious as to where you were, where the Creator led you in your studying of this topic.
Well, because now my mind is going based on what she was saying, but I think I can tie it into what Chantel was saying as far as what I was thinking. So
Okay.
immediately my mind went to the thought of truth and how if it's my body, my temple, then first of all, is my body really my temple? That was the first question. That was like the counter question that I had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about your right to choose and all of that. Where that led me was, well, is my body really my temple, right? And she read the scripture from, I'm a church girl. I was born and raised in the church. My father's the minister. And so when she brought that scripture up, I thought about it. I said, right. I remember being taught that, you know, my body is not my own, but it's the temple of the Most High. And that I have to condition myself or put myself in a position where I can be used by the Creator. And I have to be available to the Creator to be used at all times. And so, you know, when I'm thinking about the entire landscape of what's happening right now with all these decisions that's being made and these principles that have been upheld for decades of, you know, time here in this land, I'm like, well, it sounds like to me that the truth is just coming out. Mm-hmm. And that truth is where the Most High can really use you and where he can really show himself in the situation when people are operating in truth. And so that's where my mind went. When you start talking about the temple or my body being my temple, is it possible for my body to be a temple if there's no truth there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I said to somebody long ago when this argument first started among men who sit in the room and decide these things. What happened is that I said, if you made every man who was suspected of fathering a child responsible for those children, and especially if DNA proved that he was the actual father, believe me when I tell you, this would not be an argument. So, you know.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
That is a good point.
I keep hearing that being brought up as well, as far as like, you know, women are left with this whole and the stigma of deciding not to mother a child, but you have men who decide not to father a child all the time. And even when you are in a relationship with someone who decides to be there for you and support you as you mother a child, still the responsibility falls on you greatly. Mothers are often blamed for how their children turn out if they're not successful, right? If they are successful, they're praised for it. But if they come out to be like a menace to society, they must have had an awful mother. You know what I'm saying? So we hold so much responsibility, but you know, we don't have a lot. We can't, you know, we don't have a, there's a stigma with that decision to choose. So I thought about that too.
I thought about an article that I just saw recently, and it reminded me of Egypt when they tried to cut us off and they told the midwives to kill all the boy babies and everything like that. It seems that a record number of women, I don't have to tell you mainly who, are opting for sterilization. In addition, the number of vasectomy requests has gone up. So that's one of the consequences that they did not foresee coming out of this situation. You know what I'm saying? So,
but it's interesting. It's kind of interesting because it's not that it's never been thought of ever in the world, right? Like there's gonna be a time, and I kind of feel like we've definitely been in these times.
Oh yes.
Like when you talk about the young being against the old, the eldest. You talk about men against women, women against men, children against their parents, parents against their children. Then you get to the point of people not wanting to bring children into the earth. And people have legitimate, you know, when they argue the point, they'll question, why would I want to bring a child into the world? And then people tend to look at them with, other people tend to look at these individuals with disgust, but it's like, let's back up a bit. You know what I mean? There's truth to this, right? And nothing happens. I always say that, you know, everything, history repeats itself in a sense. But when you have these small disruptions, like lack of population or people choosing not to populate the earth, right? That's another, like Ema said, another disruption that no one betted on. That was not foreseen. You know what I mean? And it's men and women, right? And a lot of that still comes from how we begin to view like what's happening in the earth right now, which is why we need to start paying more attention to what's going on around us. Have more conversations with each other, have honest conversations with each other, going back to truth. But you said something in that when you question if my body is really my temple, if the truth is not there. I don't want to kind of bypass that.
Right.
Because that's kind of loaded for me. So what I kind of, you know, I'll just segue a little bit with when we have an understanding, which is why we're doing these topics and we're almost starting like from a very basic level about who we are, who are we, right? We started out with that, who are we? Then we started about, you know, at least connecting our bodies in a spiritual sense of what it is of what we're made up of, right? But then going into a deeper sense into like levels of spirituality, when we talk about this being, we use these references all the time, this being our temple, right?
Right.
When how you there's a way. I feel like what sometimes is missed is how people connect that truthfully.
Yes.
Right? You can say, yeah, my body is a temple because it's a temple to the Most High, but in what way? So you say that, but for those that don't know, right, I think a lot of it stems from not having that information. When you are informed about who you are, going back to Chantel's point, and we can use girls as a reference point, when you teach young girls about who they are, blanket, and not just from the perspective of their sex first, right, their gender first,
right,
but who you are. The loaded question: who are you? Who do you belong to, and how you can relate that in a way? Go ahead.
Well, the reason why I even question is my body even a temple is because when I just looked up the meaning of temple, period, right? It says just the definition of temple is a building devoted to the worship or regarded as a dwelling place of a god or gods or other objects of religious reverence. So I was like, wow, when I think about my body being a temple for the Most High, I think about him becoming one with the Creator and him being able to invoke his presence on me, right? Utilize me as a voice to the people.
Right.
So in relation, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go.
So that was a thought that I had, was that if a temple is a place where that's devoted to worship or to a god as a dwelling place, then is my body really suitable for that? Or is that, you see what I'm saying? Is that something that people be throwing around? And I said, well, the only way that your body can be suitable to be a temple is if truth exists there. And let me give you a full circle thought. What brought me there? And it's kind of shifting gears a bit, but what prompted me, my thought with that was that Cardi B had posted a video, or she was live. She was doing something. She was live. I think she went live on Instagram. And she was speaking to her audience in reference to her recently doing a song, and it's a drill song, and it's something about those drill songs. For what I'm understanding, those drill songs are being used to invoke spirits on the people, which we know that music is one of the primary ways to enter into a man's spirit or a woman's spirit. But anyway, she was saying that she didn't want to do this particular song. I think the name of the song is Shake It. And she was like, the reason why she didn't want to do it was because she felt like it was opening a door for these spirits that she had released a long time ago. She felt like the song was opening a door or a portal for these spirits to come back in to her vessel. And she was kind of like, really, her voice was really faint, and she was like crying. And she was like, yo, like, I don't want these spirits on me anymore. I had locked them away a long time ago. And she was like, I really just want to be a mother. And I was like, when I heard her say that, I was like, wow, Todaya, that she was bold enough to speak her truth. Because in her speaking the truth, that takes away that stronghold that those spirits may have on her coming back, coming back to her by way of this song. And I said, the truth, her speaking the truth is, it was bold because she built her whole reputation, her whole career on being this type of like video vixen girl. You know what I'm saying? Shaking it, and I'm a stripper and all of this. And for her to come out with the truth that, look, I don't want this anymore. I don't want that lifestyle anymore. I felt like at that very moment when she spoke that truth, she was being used by the Most High. And the Most High actually took possession of her vessel, and he spoke through her. And I was like, well, is that possible for the Most High to speak through Cardi B? Well, we know he could speak through
anybody.
Speak through, right? But I said, well, in her being basically willing to be honest about where she was in life, instead of falling under that peer pressure of, this is who I am, this is what the industry is expecting from me, this is what my fans are expecting from me, so this is what I'm going to give them. And her being willing to be honest, the Most High was able to utilize her in a mighty way. Because in her saying that, it was kind of like she was denouncing that whole industry, that whole that's deceiving our sisters. You know, a lot of people follow her and they're patterning their lifestyle after her music.
Exactly.
So for her to speak the truth, I was like, wow, the Most High just used her to speak the truth, but to also separate herself from that industry.
Which goes into the thought of sanctification too.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
understanding.
So that's where the thought started for me.
Okay. So with that, and I had a challenge question. So I'll read what I had first, and then I'll say my challenge question because you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I got excited. Basically, when we were talking about this, like I said, I can be literal sometimes. So I took in understanding my body, my temple, I really took it to understanding the construct of the temple, in particular, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, right? And one of the things that I came across is that came to thought is simply the human body and the Mishkan are complex constructs made up of many different parts to formulate the whole. So when I think about it, I think about whole body, whole temple. In a sense, it also leads into whole nation, but that's a whole nother avenue. So then Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, kind of stuck with me. And so in that, it made me consider how you talked about the divine dwelling within you, like the divine take, even in the particular using Cardi B as an example, how the creator even took possession of her, right? And ultimately, and even if it was in that moment, and ultimately our temples are made up for that, right? Our body, speaking of our temple, or in this case, like the Mishkan, our body, our temple is to be filled with the spirit of the Most High. So we talk about the Ruach Elohim a lot, right? So that's what the divine is supposed, the divine wants to dwell. He wanted to dwell in the Mishkan. He wanted that space for Yisrael to be able to meet him there, right? So in that, he filled the Mishkan, he fills our human body. So, like you said, we are dwelling places for the divine spirit to rest. But this is where I had to ask myself, and now I pose the question to everyone else: am I a place the Most High wants to dwell? And in that, I think it goes back to your topic of truth, in that how honest are we truly being with ourselves? Because we can, and I'm good for saying this too, you can play the part, you can look the part a lot of times, right? But that doesn't mean that that's truly who you are. And a lot of times we even have witnessed, right? And we say this amongst ourselves sometimes, we've witnessed people that comes with the whole fit, even with the words, right? But that doesn't mean that the Ruach Elohim rests in that individual. Even if they're coming with the right words, with the right scripture at the right time, it doesn't mean that the Ruach Elohim rests within that individual. So you brought up one of the things that it takes for that to happen, and that's us being honest, getting to the root cause of the root of the problem, so to speak, which is ourselves. Right. The question will always come back, no matter the situation. Even when we're talking about the creator, it will always come back to self. When we talk about how we reach that next level, how do we draw closer to the creator? How do we learn to sanctify ourselves and to keep ourselves holy? Sanctification is simply setting ourselves apart. So one of the ways in which you just mentioned, and I like to just pull that out a lot of times because people bypass that, is simple, things that people can start doing right now, right? Because we talk about, even when we do these topics, the idea is that when we're doing them, what are we walking away with? It's not just about people giving lip service and just talking, right? Sisters don't just go into studying these things just for the, we're studying it for the purpose of drawing closer to the creator.
Amen.
For us to find ways to sanctify ourselves so that we find ourselves worthy for the Creator to want to dwell within us. But I had to ask myself the question, am I a place the Most High wants to dwell in? And when you brought up truth, that I just felt that is a start to that, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Even if you don't find yourself being in the space, even if, let's say, you took a very honest look at yourself, right?
Mhm.
And you said, you know what, I might have been doing this for a minute. I think I might need to reevaluate some things in my life.
Mhm.
Self-assessment is necessary.
It's necessary. And the funny thing is, we should always be in that space to kind of question ourselves, because it's easy to lose touch. One of the easiest things to do is to go toward a negative route. Our mind is
Yes, true.
Right?
Mhm.
Constantly with us. It crouches, right? Sin crouches at the door, right?
Yeah.
So if it's crouching, that means it's ever present. So we always have to be in a space that we can kind of figure out ways to deflect it, or not for it to come into our space, or to reassess or reevaluate ourselves in those moments. And one of the ways, and I'm glad you brought up the thought of truth, is for us to find ways to be honest and truthful with ourselves. We also have to be honest and truthful with each other.
All right.
And we have to be honest and truthful with the ones that come after us.
Mhm.
Right.
Which all kind of ties in, right? Chantel started out by talking about what to say to the young girls, what wasn't said to her.
Right.
If you understand the concept of who you are, who you truly belong to, but what that really means. Because you're a child of God. Okay,
That's
Mom.
not enough.
All right, I'm a child of, okay. You know what I'm saying? So when somebody go to say something to me, I'm a child of God, you can't say that to me.
Right,
you know?
right.
That don't still mean that they understand the concept of what that means to say you are a child of the Most High God. What makes you a child of the Most High God? Here's what he says, but then begin to ask yourself the question, is he with me? Could he?
Right.
Am I even worthy of that? And a lot of times we thank God, you thank the Most High for his grace, right? And his mercy.
Yes, indeed.
In particular, right?
All right.
Whereas we could have been done away a long time ago. He didn't.
Mhm.
He considered the same thing he wants us to do, is to consider him at different terms. So it brought me to the thought of sanctification in general. One of the kind of like the subtopics that we did say, like we said amongst ourselves, was how sacred should we be? In other words, and I like when Zaria kind of cleared it up, is what is true sanctification? Which I think becomes the real question. So what is true sanctification? Ultimately. I would say, did that question, when we kind of pose it, did it come up for you?
Well, I would say that, when you start talking about sanctification, it's kind of like putting yourself in a set apart space, right? Where you set apart to the Creator, and he can utilize me. What is true sanctification? I wanted to go back. I'm thinking about something that you said before, and I wanted to go back to one of the scriptures that came to mind when we were talking about operating in truth, was that the word of the Lord is right and all his works are done in truth.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, if all of his works are done in truth, then I need to be in that state of truth for him to utilize me. That's how you become truly sanctified. That's how you become truly set apart for the Most High to utilize you. Because, like you said, you can have all of the the points down, all the bullet points down. I'm supposed to have this, and this. I'm supposed to have my hair wrapped like this. My CCs are supposed to look like this. They're supposed to be lined, or I need to have them in the four corners. My skirt's supposed to be this long. And these are the scriptures that I'm supposed to speak every Shabbat, right? I know there's about 3 or 4 that I know that's going to come up, right? And I got to know the commandments. I got to be able to recite the commandments word for word. You know, I got to know this, I got to know that. And then you can be operating dishonestly in your heart, but speaking the truth of Elohim, right? And he's not utilizing you at that point. You're utilizing him so that spirit, it's like, it could be a reversal where I'm speaking truth, right? But in my heart, I'm not, there's no truth in my heart of what I'm saying. I'm disconnected from that. And so there could be a reversal where there could be a deceptive spirit that's being using the truth of the Most High to penetrate.
You've seen it.
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting what you said.
Just being honest and truthful, because that's the only way that the Most High can do his work. That's the environment that is conducive to the Most High operating. And the truth is, if his word is true, of course we know that, but then he has to be able to operate in a true environment. So you could be speaking of his truth, but your environment can be corrupted.
Right. Chantel, you.
Yeah, that, you know, that is the same thought I have. You know, it's important, like, that self-assessment is so important to ensure that you are connected to the Most High in the way that you should be. I think that what you said, Azaria, is one of the things that led me to have to take a step back at the end of the year, like to plan to take this step back, because I felt like I was just in a place of just doing, right? You know, starting with Shamre, that whole entire year was a very busy year, right? And I felt like, if I'm not connected to the Most High, how's my message going to be where it should be for the people, right? Because then I was feeling like, and I think I talked to you, Ametia, like I was feeling like, I'm not too sure about my words, right? I'm not in, I don't want to ever be in a place where, you know, I'm just saying things just to say things.
Right.
But that it has meaning to me in order for me to bring it forth so it can have meaning for you, because, you know, we all learn from each other. So if I'm not connecting to the Most High, so I've been in this place just in these last few months where, you know, I would, on Shabbat, I would turn on YouTube and I go fishing for something to watch. And maybe 2 weeks ago, the Most High says, stop. I need you to sit with me. And I needed to hear that, because, you know, I'm getting this place where I want to listen to somebody. But the whole year I was listening to others, but I wasn't really sitting in a place with the Most High in a way that was necessary for my own personal growth and my own personal connection with the Most High. So he just told me, like, girl, stop playing with that TV. If it's not going to be worship music, don't put it on. Right. Because I need you to sit with me. So how do we begin to understand, or, you know, understand how our bodies are a temple? Is that the Most High speaks to us and tells us when it's necessary to sit with him. The Most High tells us when to stop doing things. You know, I think about the church, right? And I think about how one of the things I always just say, people sit there and be like, yeah, amen, yeah. And then right out the door, they're doing something else.
Right.
So when you want us, like Ametia said, you're a child of God, that's not enough. What does that really mean?
Right.
And I don't think that that's something that may be expressed or explained thoroughly in churches around the world. I mean, it may be in some churches. I'm not going to say that women are not stepping up. I'm not going to say that. But I think that for majority, even look, I've been in so many groups. I know they wasn't speaking to me and telling me about what it means to get God. I can speak only from my own personal experience. But I learned what it means because I had that personal relationship with the Creator. I was in my studies, I was in my readings, you know, and He speaks to us. So if women are not reading, they're not learning. They're not learning that. And therefore, you know, some women are not able to fully make the change to honoring the Creator in the best way. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because there'll be times I'm like, you know, like I know better. I'm sorry. You know, I'm gonna sit in the corner for today. You know, but I won't know that unless I'm not allowing them. So sanctification is very important. Self-assessment, and knowing who you are is so important.
Well, ultimately, and you kind of said it. One, we have to be in a state. We've kind of gone over this, right? We have to be in a space for the Most High to be able to dwell there. You have to be in a space to be able to listen, right? Levels of distraction can happen anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Even if you know, and there's nothing wrong with Knessets, there's nothing wrong with camps, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But sometimes there's levels of distraction that comes about even there. And taking a step back, been in the same space, taking a step back, you sometimes in that reevaluation, you hear things a lot clearer.
Mm-hmm.
You have a willingness. So kind of tying it back again, even to what we're talking about as far as like, even if we want to use the temple, right? It started out with a willing heart from the beginning. You know, the things that filled the tabernacle, filled the temple, came from a willingness of heart.
Right.
So along with truth, you have to have a willing heart. And that should be another level to, you know, to maybe finding out what true sanctification is also. Is when you have that willing heart and you open up yourself for the Creator to be able to come in and dwell there, right? So you start with being honest with yourself with that truth, right? Then you have a willingness for that. Like, I'm willing to open myself to this. The Most High willing, He comes into your space. You open yourself to hear more, to do more.
Right.
And then you'll find yourself moving along and setting yourself apart from the things that you once knew.
Right.
Many of us have walked that path, but it doesn't just stop. And I think that's more important to also add to it. That doesn't stop.
Right.
This can also escape you. You can shut yourself off. You can stop listening. You can
Choices.
Exactly.
The thought of choices, right? So that's where we have choices. I've always had this conversation in the past about free will versus predestination, right? But there are some things that are destined, right? But it's ultimately we still make the choice to move in a certain direction. So,
Ema, we didn't hear from you tonight.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you heard from me. I'm just listening. I'm old, but I can still learn, and I'm hearing some very good things.
Well, you know, we're young, and we definitely need our elder.
So,
oh yeah.
With the topic, when you hear my body, my temple, where does that lead you necessarily?
For me? Well, then as a person who's most of my life I've been worrying about everybody else's care rather than my own, it meant to me that I needed to pay more attention to my body, my temple. And part of one of the reasons that I wasn't receiving the full benefits of what the Most High had to offer me is because I did not pay attention to this. And I realized that this is what if I want to continue to serve and I want to continue to live, and I know nobody can know when the Most High will call them, call the spirit home, that I still had to take certain steps to listen to my body, to listen to what it was trying to tell me, to listen to the messages that the Most High was trying to give me through this body. And to tell you the truth, I know from listening to that back in 2013, almost 10 years now, that's what took me to a doctor in time to keep me from something that would have taken my life. I'm getting ready. I'm hearing new messages, so I'm getting ready to, do another change too. But I realize that if I want to continue to serve, I mean, I'm 80 and I'm still going out to the food pantry, and I'm still going out to the community and whatnot like that. And I will, as long as the Most High will allow me, I will do that. But I realize that you can't do that if your temple is not in line with the Creator. And when I say that, it's not just the biological functions of your body, but also the spiritual and the emotional and the psychological. All those things are important in determining how your body sometimes responds, how your body will serve you. You understand what I said? How you can serve the Creator. So I've started to pay attention to those things because I realize that they are important now.
I like, we talk about being not just the alignment in one area or the next, but when you're not in alignment altogether, which was where I was going initially. When you're not in alignment, destruction happens. So, I mean, if we think about it, we done had 3 destructions.
Yeah.
Places where the Most High dwelt. Right. And
exactly.
each time, 2 in particular, well, each time they all was about the same.
Right.
For the same reasons, right? Idolatry, levels of perversion, and discord amongst each other. So even with those as thoughts that comes to mind, we have to get to a space of recognizing when we're headed toward destruction. And I like how Nasika's in the background, and she's like, our surroundings, right? There are reasons why we succumb to certain things. First of all, we place ourselves there. Going back to levels of being honest with ourselves. We place ourselves there and we make those choices. And when we do, going back to that feeling of lack or fear itself, we stay down this path, or the path feels good, put it that way, and it tends to feel good, and then we find ourselves in this space of destruction. I like Nasika, she was like saying the temple was destroyed and how we understood the need for the temple. Did we understand the need for the temple? How we rebuilt it. Right. But how we also rebuild it. So when you find yourself on this path, right, and even if we talk about levels of destruction, you find yourself on this path in the same way, because there's, again, I always like to say, there's nothing new under the sun. How do you begin to rebuild it? And that's, I think, where people tend to get stuck as well.
Yeah, because over the years, I've seen the various attempts of unity. I mean, it's always not really puzzled me, but it's always frustrated me to realize that we go here, we go there, one wants to lead in this corner, one wants to be in this little corner, one wants to be in this corner. And if we put our resources together and we put our efforts together, what it could really be. And it's not like this is not in our history, because we see that when we came out of slavery in this country and other places, we built for ourselves. And I realize there's a danger in that, because like with Greenwood or Tulsa, they burned it down, and Rosewood and Storyville and Utah, Alabama. I realize that thing happens, but we seem to have forgotten that spirit of unity, the spirit of cooperating with each other, and really, really loving each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons why I may be somewhat successful in some places is because I really love my people. Yes, they get on my nerves. Yes, I'd like to give them a boot in the behind. Sometimes I feel like taking the sword and going through the camp. But I love them. But I love them.
You're not spear, right, Ema?
Right.
That's right. But I love them. I love them, and that's why I'm able to put up with some things. Now, I'm not going to put up with everything. No. What I have to do, sometimes I realize in order to help them and myself, I have to step back. But never forgetting the idea that if I'm not there to help, that I'm not there to harm either. And
Right.
I keep that in mind.
You asked the question in reference to how do we rebuild the temple, and that was something that I was considering, just looking into, your body being your temple. And I said, well, the temple is going to be rebuilt by us, right? But we have to be the temple first. We have to be the temple first for us to be able to rebuild it, right? And so how do we start to rebuild the temple? And there's a scripture, and that's what I was pulling up here. It says, everybody know it, but it's, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. And when you were talking about what destroyed the temple, what were the three things that destroyed the temple? I said, when I was looking into it, I was like, well, in the book of Hezekiel, chapter 8, I'm not going to go into it deeply, but that's when the Most High was showing him all the abominations that were taking place in the temple, and basically why the temple was being destroyed. And so how we start to rebuild the temple is to turn from our wicked ways. First, we got to humble ourselves as a people. We have to turn away from our wicked ways, because those are the things that caused the destruction of the temple in the first place. And then we have to pray. We have to call out the Creator. And that was like the anchor of when I was going into my thought process. That anchored my thought process, because I said, well, how do we get to that place? And we have to get to that place. What brings a person to a place of humility? And what brings them to a place of humility is being honest and being truthful about the state that they're in.
All right.
Once you begin to be honest and be truthful about the state that you're in, then you can really humble yourself to the Creator and cry out. And then you really know what you're turning away from. So we have to turn from our wicked ways, and we have to humble ourselves and pray to the Creator before. That's how we will start rebuilding the temple.
And the part that we play for each other.
Right.
What are the parts that we can play for each other in this sense? And I asked this question because realistically, this is my own thought, and my mind can go sometimes, but we understand we have levels of trust issues amongst each other. And when we're in, and I always say, when you're in more of a microcosm, it's a little easier, I think, to try to relate one to another. And if you are an honest person, really honestly try to get to honestly know the next person, right? But I feel like there's still parts in which we played it at that we have to play for each other, even in that. Because the tabernacle, the temple wasn't built by one person alone. It was many different parts, and there was specific people even who was called by name.
That's right.
And so we even take it back to Exodus. You have Bezalel.
Yeah, Bezalel and Aholiab.
Yeah. And I think in like First Kings, you also have Hiram in First Kings in the
Oh,
same.
Hiram, yeah, but Hiram, he was his father was a Zidonian,
Right.
and
Yep.
yes,
Out of tier. So even so, there's certain people who are called for certain things, and we have that understanding. So I like to remind people too, while we're talking about this, don't think that the Creator doesn't call you to be used for His service, right? Because this is why even we're here, right?
right,
There's a part of us that we know the Creator is calling us into service. What that service looks like, we're going to know as we walk along this path. He's going to tell us if it's going to work or if it's not going to work, right? But in thinking of how things are to be built, how it was built originally, but also the rebuilding of, it takes more than just one person. So to also keep in mind each other as we begin to kind of wrap it up, the part in which we play with each other. So to Ema's point, when she goes, I don't always like them. I like to stick a myself, right? And although we have those moments and we have those times that come across our mind, there's still a consideration for each other that's there too. So what you realize is that you learn who you can build with. And as you begin, and these are these small pockets that eventually add up to the whole, right?
Right.
And the closer that we all begin to get in the individual state as well as collectively, the more I think we will see the divine in our lives. That light shining brighter than ever once that time comes. Anybody has anything final to say? Or thoughts they want, you know what I mean, with my takeaways?
Well, again, I think we ought to concentrate on learning to love each other. It's a process because we've been partly because of, first of all, because we turned our backs on the Most High. And secondly, partly because of our oppressors and what they taught us to do. But we have to unlearn that behavior. And we unlearn it by starting to trust each other. Of course, we are cautious because we realize that our people who have gone through this experience or even similar experiences are not always, they've learned certain ways that are contrary to Torah and how we're supposed to behave with one another. But we have to begin somewhere. We have to begin to trust. And we have to begin to love, and love will build up the trust, and trust will build up the respect, and then we can see ourselves coming together. Because I know, like, even in your own family, there are people that you have that you shy away from, even though these people are related to you by blood, but you shy away because you realize that it would be a contentious type of situation. And sometimes you just have to humble your spirit and go on and say, listen, why we mad at each other? Why we fighting with each other? And whatnot. I know I had to do that with an aunt, God rest her, she's deceased now, but I had to do that. And I'm telling you, I felt so much better when I did that. I didn't realize that I was carrying around that heavy burden for so long, but I felt so much better when I released it. And the Most High let me know in so many ways that I had done the right thing. So, we need to get rid of those little petty angers that we have, those little petty things that we have. And I'm not saying that you should allow anybody to treat you badly or to treat you unfairly when you know about it. But I'm saying that some of the stuff that we get popped off about is, it's like, what? What?
That's a very good point. Chantel?
I was thinking about what Ema said, about trusting. We have to get back to a place of trusting, right? But I wonder, do we really trust the Most High? And I think that's a start. That's a place where we can start. We have to trust the Most High. I think we are in a time, we don't have the Most High as when Israel had the Most High, like seeing the clouds, the picture we see of the Most High we get from reading our Tanach, right? But right now we're in a presence where we don't really see the Most High's presence. So do we really trust the Most High? Do we really trust? Because what we have really is His word, right? And so I was thinking about when they were building that temple, and I think it's Zechariah or Nehemiah, where they were building a temple, and the other Israelites came, and they were like nitpicking and going back, and we want to trust our people, but if our people is doing wicked behind our backs to prevent us from doing what we want to do for the Creator, right? Because just imagine that they wanted to see a temple that they had once saw, and they want to restore it back to its glory, right? And now you have our brothers and sisters coming up against us and causing discord amongst the people, and now the temple being rebuilt had to stop. So I also thought about why the Most High left a remnant, because that remnant truly loved the Creator. That's what I have in my mind when he leaves a remnant. I really feel like he left a small group of people because they truly love Creator, and he had to have them there to restart or rebuild in times to come. They were the first cell, if the first, like, the cell, like when we think about the baby, right? The cell, that first cell that is going to grow the many cells in times to come. But we got to trust the Creator, and really, really, put our belief into action and not just saying words, and then, those who, and I think that, you touched on justice. I think that the reason why we're not on one accord, in a sense, is because we're not seeking justice for the things that are being done within the community, or in this world, really, quite frankly, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, is bringing back justice and peace, and bringing people to the Creator. But we're not acting in that. And, we could talk about, we're in captivity. I don't know. Me being new, it's just, or fairly new. I'm, 4 years, 5 years in now, but so it's a lot. I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but I really feel like we gotta trust the Creator first, and then when we start to bring justice to the things that we are doing and not allow certain things to happen, that we will begin to build that trust with one another and be on one accord moving forward. And then that way we could be the people that the Most High created us for, to be set apart in this nature.
Justice, that's one of my favorite words.
Azaria.
You go, Levy.
I just think it's important, for us to, especially now more than ever before, all of the high places that have been built up over time are being torn down. The establishments are being brought low. People that were held in high regard are being brought low. And so the time is coming where we are going to have to be prepared to rebuild. And all of the institutions that have stood in the place of righteousness are being torn down. The government, you have the people who we have looked to over the years for guidance and things to that sort. And the one thing that's bringing them low is the truth of what's happening in these institutions. That's what's bringing these people low. That's what's bringing these institutions low. And so I think it's just really important for us just to walk in spirit and in truth. And that way, when it comes time for the Most High to deal with us, and when it comes time for Him to utilize us to rebuild, that we would be right and ready.
Yeah, faith.
I love it. Nasika, hers is do justly, love mercy, and walk humble with Yah. That's how we can guard our temple. And that's her takeaway, that, well, at least what she wants others to be, to walk away with. And in truth, I agree with everybody in an easy escape out, right? I agree with everybody in that we have choices, like Chantel put eloquently earlier. We have truth, like Azaria brought out strongly. And even with Ima, we have to learn to trust. So there's processes to this. One thing I will say, as more my takeaway, would be there's always opportunity for us to build, not only with each other, but to build our temple, to rebuild our temple. And that the image of the Most High. He is within us. The divine is with us always. And we have it within us if we seek him, like my sister says, right? And love mercy, and do justly. He will dwell within us. If you find yourself transgressing, if you find yourself in fear, if you find yourself in a spirit of lack, even, right? Just know that you have the opportunity to start again. As long as you have breath, 10 toes down, you get to see another sunrise or a sunset, you have an opportunity to be able to rebuild. And with that, I thank you all. First and foremost, let me just say I thank the Most High God.
Amen.
All else, for this opportunity, for his guidance, even as we continue to grow, as we grow as individually, as we grow as collectively, as we try to reach and attain greater and more within the Most High. So I thank him always for the life of all of you. I love y'all. I thank him for the lives of sisters or brothers that might be watching. And I just couldn't leave without just being able to close out with that. So right before we close, Chantel, what do we have up next?
Just give me one more minute. I'm going to share it right now.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. If you have any topics you would like for us to consider discussing, please go to na'shaychayil.org and click on the comment icons. And the next announcement is if you would like to support Na'Shay Chayil, donations can be made at cashapp, $Na'Shay Chayil, or at PayPal, Na'Shay Chayil. We thank you for your donation. It would definitely help us in all the things that we want to do moving forward. Our next, come see us on July 27th.
Yep.
That is next week for our, I'm sorry, let me remove that banner. Our next Devarim Tovim Akotim, and we will have our guest IO of Simchah Wellness.
Got it.
And of course, our sister from the Works of Angels' Hands, a co-angel who will be giving a live cooking, Salika, live cooking show with a co-angel. She will be making a crabless cake. If you would like to join the cooking, live cooking with her, the ingredients can be found on our website at na'shaychayil.org. So we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, July 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
And I don't know, I think my thing is like very, okay, there we go. So we thank you all for joining us, joining our topic, and we pray that the Most High will be with you until we meet again.
Absolutely. And also to future entrepreneurs.
Before you go, just let me remind you, those of you who live in the New York City area, we have 2 pantries that will be open tomorrow. And in this time of food shortages, you need to know where they are. We have the Bet Shalom Love Thy Neighbor Food Pantry, which is located at 730 Willoughby Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, between Marcus Garvey Boulevard and Lewis Avenue. And we do need volunteers. If you're a volunteer, please get there by 9 or 9:30. We will be passing out food to the people of the neighborhood as well as the people in the various temples. And if you find that you're in need of food or a food shortage, please come by there. There's also the Shomrei Habrit, the Works of Angels' Hands Food Pantry, which operates at, 1568 Prospect Place in Brooklyn. And they'll be open as well tomorrow. They probably need volunteers as well. We all need those. Mm-hmm. And please come out if you are in need of food, or you know somebody, even if you know someone if you have a neighbor who's in need of food, please come and get these food supplies while they are there.
Yes.
Again, I just want to let you know, and I'm sure all of you already know it, that we're going to be, come fall, I can see that we're going to have increased food shortages. So it might be a good idea to come by and get food that is free to stock up your pantry with, the dry goods that you can keep, because they could always make a meal. All right.
So that people also know that the pantry food is not just
the leftover
foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people have an issue with that. There's also a lot of what do you call produce?
That's yes.
Well, fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables and things of that nature.
Fresh from the farm too.
There you go. And sometimes we realize that people have to also know that. Because there's a stigma sometimes attached to the pantry. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Mm-hmm. And also in our sisters in Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. Mm-hmm. So, as always, we hope that we're reaching sisters everywhere, So just to shout out our sisters out in Ohio, in particular, they're having a Hallelujah Fest. Oh. This will be September 4th, 2022. They have a free outdoor event hosted by Sister Sarah, or Sarah. Live performance will be by King Malachi. For those that might be familiar with him, he will be there. He's also shooting a video for his new song that's coming up. So for vending spots, what we'll do is post the flyer also in our Na'Shay Chayil Facebook group, so that everyone can also see it. But for vending spots, they have a tent. Their number is 513-203-5732. That's 513-203-5732. And it's $50 per booth for those that might be interested. In addition, with Na'Shay Chayil, with the different segments that we're doing, entrepreneurs, those that might be that have their own businesses, will want an opportunity to be able to showcase it. This is what we want to be able to give you all this opportunity to do so. So even where you go to leave a comment on the Na'ShayChayil.org, if you can go ahead, you can even put it in the comments. If you have a business, we'll reach out to you, contact you. If you are familiar with our Facebook page, by all means, join the Facebook page, reach out to us, let us know what you have going on, and we'll try to figure out a way to showcase your businesses as a means of continuing to network and grow our nation. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for your time, those that are viewing. And I hope to see you guys next week, because I'm really interested in how my sis Angel is going to make these crab ribs.
You're not joining? You don't got your ingredients? Because I'm going. I want
to. I just want to eat.
You want to eat?
I want to have my ingredients, because I used to love me some crab cakes back in the day. And so if I can find a way to substitute that would be wonderful.
So you're cooking too?
Yes, of course.
All right. We got to get our kitchen ready so that we can showcase.
Just tell me who house to be at, because I'm going to be at somebody else's house eating. So
you're closer to Azaria, so I
just got to elbow her kids. That's all.
I was about to say.
I'm going to be a volunteer in your house. I'm sorry.
With that, as always, we thank y'all. We hope to see you next week. and shalom.
Shalom, everyone.